Mama, I got bad news, bad news. I've been rolling with some bad dudes, bad dudes. I've been trying to get a bag too.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Ashes to Awesome podcast, Rising in Recovery. Our podcast provides light, hope, and understanding about addiction and mental health to those living within that life and the people who love them. This episode is brought to you by Together We Can, where Canada recovers from addiction. That's twcrecoverylife.org. This episode is dedicated to a son, a brother, an uncle, and a friend. Scott Andrew Provincial passed away on September 1st, 2023, at the age of 35. Scott was so much more than a statistic or how he passed. He loved, and he was loved. Please carry Narcan, people. Hello, listeners and watchers. Welcome to another edition of the Kaleidoscope Wednesday on the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFlange, and with me in virtual studio today is, of course, Ryan Bathgate. He's back from holidays, which I guess the listeners didn't even really know because we got everything done ahead of time this time, didn't we, right? So, how you doing today, Ryan?
You know, you spend a week out in the bush, and it has a way of wearing you down. So I'm kind of, and I, unplugged from the world completely. No internet out there, so
I know.
It's nice, but it also has a buildup of anxiety, I guess, when you finally get back into reality and realize everything that's ahead of you. You know,
you don't have any less work to do. You've just got less time to do it now. Right?
Yeah, Which I definitely feel that pressure. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, buddy, I've been using the word reverence a lot lately, so because of you, but for our relationship. And it's funny because we talk every day, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't talked to you in a fucking week, and I haven't talked to you in a week. I got to tell you, right? There's a void there, not just because of the friendship, but because I need my free billable hours, man. Right? It's like, I'm not gonna lie, right? Like, it's been kind of, I'm not out here, grabbing at strands or nothing, but it's most certainly. I did miss your presence in my life there for a week, right? Just, so yeah. Not that that's go ahead.
It's reciprocal. I mean, we get used to things, and the old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I did have an itch to
record
to get to work and to get back into this, and and then it just like. I had to remind myself many times that I need to get as much rest and relaxation in as possible, because from September to June, it's grind time. Yeah,
right. Yeah, well, and it's going to be, we got some big projects in the go. We're not going to get into details, but you're going to be grinding harder this year than you did last year. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
That's just the way that goes, right? So, yeah.
In some sadistic way, I'm looking forward to it, which I don't know what that says about me.
Well, right. Are you looking forward to the raw work? Or are you looking forward to working towards a result?
Both.
Right. Yeah.
Let's be honest, man. I'm a human being, and I have. I like having an audience.
Yes.
And there's something I've learned is that there's a lot that goes on between these years, and it's nice to be able to get it out. And have people actually, and it's like the big fear of rejection and everything, because I think I'm crazy. That whole thing, well, I don't care anymore.
I just had some validation now, right? So,
it's nice. But no, it was good. I mean, lots of pool time, lots of kids time, lots of hammock time, and just did a lot of laughing. And I think can't ask for much more than that, really.
No kidding, eh? No kidding.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I do want to speak to something else here, and before we get going, on what is to be the first of a 3-part series on emotional lexicon. So, today, if I had to pick something off that wheel, you know what a case study that is for this, right? Definitely sad. Right? It's definitely sad. Really sad, actually. So. Overdose Awareness Day is on Thursday. 2 days before that was Tuesday. My friend Miles come over, my very good friend Miles. He helped me hang the thing for this green screen back here behind me. And his brother came along with him, who we aren't great friends, but certainly Scotty, his brother, we have this kind of funny relationship. And I could tell a quick story about him because it's my show and he's whatever. When I first got back to Calgary, I went to live with some very good friends of mine and families, like in their family or whatever. And then when I met Miles, I walked in. I thought he was my good friend Dan, actually, because it looks so much brilliant. They're playing guitar, and the whole family's gifted like that. Turns out Miles he's a great guy. He's a family guy. We kind of clicked right away, right? So, okay, cool. I got a normal friend in Calgary. That's kind of nice, while I start to get reacquainted with everybody. And then his brother is in the house one day, and he's a little rougher around the edges, but I didn't notice anything too untowards about him. And he said he's going to the store, so I gave him $100 bill and said, "You get me smokes." Well, it's like 4 hours later, he's still not back. I was like, where's this guy, right? And at no point by this time, I'm like, this is their family. I know he's coming back. I know he's coming back because if he doesn't, my buddy's sister, who actually, it's her house that we're all in, she'll kill him if he does that to me. So I'm not even worried about it, right? But then it's like 5 hours and 6 hours. So I get a little stressed out. Turns out 8 hours later, he walks back in with my money. What I find out in that time, he's a fentanyl addict. So everyone's like, you gave him money? You can't do that. Like, you good luck. That's gone. He did come back with my money. And I remember thinking, what a shit thing that is that, I completely had judged that situation based on other people's experiences with him. But turns out he's not a bad guy. And never once has Scott wronged me. So the other day, when Miles came down to help me with this green screen, he texted me and said, "Oh, by the way, Scott's with me." And if I'm honest, at first I said, there's not a lot of room in here, buddy, and there's not. But then I was like, oh, fuck, but the guy's never wronged me. I had to remind myself yet again, even though this guy has never done anything wrong to me, he's never wronged me, why would I be treating him like less than a person, right? So he came in, we had some good times. 2 days later, he's died. Another fucking fentanyl overdose. And it's a shit sandwich, man. It is. It was a heavy week. Last week was for me. I put together a couple compilation videos and things for our memorial moms, and I made a lot of individual graphics. And me, I'm a crybaby, right? I'm an empathetic guy, and it was a heavy week for me. And so to end it like that, it really sucked. It just really sucked, And my heart goes out to Miles and Karen and Danny and everybody else in that family. And I never met his mom, but she's around too, and his other brother. My heart goes out to all of you, and I hope I can make it up there on Wednesday for the service. And if not, know that my my thoughts and as close to prayers as I ever get are with you. So yeah. But I did want to speak to Scott. So
yeah. My condolences to the family, of course.
Yeah, of course, right. So, unfortunately, it's all too common of a reality these days, and just is what it is, right? So, that said, okay, moving on. I just wanted to pay some respect because we have a platform that we can do that on. What are we going to do next? Oh yeah, I guess it's time to get on to talking about an emotional lexicon. So, why don't you start that off the way you do? I could tell you how I want you to start it off, or you could just start it off. But the result's going to be the same thing anyway. So yeah, let's go that way.
Okay. Well, it took me a while to figure out why emotional intelligence is such a big deal, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself for it taking so long, just because it simply is. Our emotions are probably the most human, authentic part of our experience. And it is, so I have a lot of theories around this that aren't always founded in the science, maybe, or maybe they are and I haven't come across it. But when I think about what it is to be human, it is to be connectable. And we did a series on connectability. Yeah. Now, if we really think about what it is that's evolved us for 125,000 years. It's not our cognitive abilities, but it is that, and we talked about this in the connection series. It is the ability to use emotion or use connection as a conduit to transmit emotion in order to create that authentic evolutionary connection. Okay? Now, if we think about that, we think about I'm just gonna like talk about how this works in our behavior development, especially the maladaptive behavior development as coping strategies. So, if I have learned through my development as a human being that when my my limbic system is evolved, it starts to take memory form around 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah. And
consequently, our memory system and our emotion systems are coupled together in the same area called the limbic system. Okay, so I always used to I play baseball and lose my mind like a 7-year-old, and I would come out of that being like, why am I such a child, And the reason is because when I experienced competition, I was a little guy that loved sports and wasn't very good at it. Yep. So I had to put if I'm not doing something with my heart, then I'm not doing something. And so when I experience competition and the expectation-disappointment relationship shows up, I react, and I use the word react as in do an action again, like I'm 7 years old, and I throw temper tantrums, and I yell at umpires, and I get kicked out of baseball games. You know what I mean? And I couldn't, and I'm trying to figure out how that happens. The way that happens is because I have never really processed that competitive feeling into how it attaches to a coping behavior and what that outcome becomes. So if we look at if I look at how, I'm walking down the street and the next thing you know, I am buying crack. How did that happen? And so typically what happens is an emotion happens because I have zero emotional intelligence. I have no idea what that emotion is. I have no lexicon around that emotion. And so so it automatically bypasses the parts of my brain that I need to be rational and reasonable, the cerebral cortex, and goes right into an action or a coping mechanism. And so the less my emotional intelligence is, the more capable I am of being overwhelmed by that emotion. So if fear is a lack of information, if I don't know what the emotion is, then it becomes fear, and that fear turns into fight or flight, and that fight or flight becomes coping mechanism, which is whatever that strategy might be. So if it's to smoke crack, then I'm going to have an emotion, be overwhelmed by it, and go smoke crack without even having there's no negotiation, there's no plan, there's no weighing out my options, there's no rational ability. It is just bam to bam.
That's that neural loop has been activated.
Exactly. And so then you're off. And so that's when I learned about neurofeedback response. It really dawned on me how important emotional intelligence really is.
Right.
And so
it almost acts as an interference in there, or what's the word? What's the verbiage for that? Right.
It stops us. It stops us from bypassing the parts of our brain that have our identity, our ability to be reasonable, our ability to make decisions. And so we become impulsive and out of a fight or flight response mode. And when we're in fight or flight response, we don't have access to all these parts.
All those things. So what I was asking is the term for what having this emotional lexicon does for you, for blocking that from happening, right? How does that, from the bad happening? Is there a term for that, or is it just this is what it does?
We use EQ.
So your EQ would be what stops you from.
And EQ stands. EQ stands for emotional quotient. And IQ stands for intelligent quotient. Right. So why don't we?
You made a really good analogy about this once with the chimps.
Actually,
right?
So that,
I think about that all the time. If your EQ is too high and your IQ is too low, you are a battle-obsessed chimp. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Especially and couple that with being a hypersensitive personality, an HSP. And it's a nasty cocktail. So you're always in a reactive state. Nothing is proactive.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. But to counter that, people with too much IQ and not enough EQ, what's the result?
Well, that's like every recovery community is just littered with people that are full of high IQ. It's just like a motor. Like if you have one part of your motor not working to its capacity, the other part has to pick it up.
Yeah.
That, just based on what a complex system is. Every bondable agent within a complex system affects the other bondable agents.
Yeah.
So that's why we get burnout or we get loneliness and we get depression, is because we are not in balance within our own organic system. Okay, so people with high emotional intelligence, they recognize their own emotions and they recognize emotions in others. They also use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior, and they can discern between different feelings and label them appropriately. So, in other words, you can adjust your emotions to adapt to your environment, whether it be social or physical or whatever.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, so if I was going to, should we try and define it?
I think so, and I think it's a great place to we were talking about that pre-recording. Decided to let you go your way, but I think it's a really good way to start. Is so that
let's define it.
They know what they're getting into, right? Yeah.
Let's use a definition that. There's these two guys. So there's some big names in the emotional intelligence world. There's a guy named Peter Salovey and John Mayer. Not Your Body's a Wonderland, John Mayer. But, okay, so they define it as the ability to monitor one's own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different emotions and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. Okay, so that's from Salovey and Mayer. Now, Goleman is the guy. He's like Daniel Goleman is the guy. He came out with the book in 1995 that just the term has been used since 1964. But in 1995, he came out with a book that was just like New York bestseller called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, and that's been the benchmark ever since.
And that's where something like the feeling wheel here would come from.
Yes, exactly. So, so when I started learning about this stuff, first thing I learned about this guy named Martin Buber. And he's got this thing called the I-thou relationship. Okay, so I-it means me as a person with dreams, hopes, goals, and experiences. And what happens is, when I become an I-it relationship, I don't see that in the other person. They are an object. So they don't have those things. It's really easy for me to be angry with them, to fight them, to talk shit about them. You know what I mean? But in the I-thou relationship, you're accepting the mirror that person is a human being as well. And so I used to practice this by going to Starbucks and talking to cops, because I just never had a really good history with them. They were the one entity that I always othered. I always created a it relationship with them. And so what I learned is, I ask them questions how's your day going? They're like, oh man, it's a 10-hour shift, and it's a long day, I can't wait for vacation, and this other stuff. And so I started to see that there was humanness within everybody. And so relative to how emotional intelligence works with other human beings, it's how we create evolutionary relationships that help us grow within ourselves by being in connection with other people. Does that make sense to you?
It absolutely does. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So then what I did was I was in school, I took a feeling wheel, just like the one you have in the back, and I put it on my fridge. And before I would leave the door every morning to go to school, I'd pick a word off that wheel. And then I would try to use it all day within my vocabulary, my lexicon.
So randomly, or did you go through them? Or
I picked one at a time.
Okay, but in order?
No.
So tomorrow you know what's good. You just kind of randomly picked one for that day? Yeah.
Well, what I did is I kind of went.
Otherwise, it'd be angry for a whole week, or sad for a whole week. Or,
No. I would switch my colors.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I would start. If you look at your wheel, I would start. At always the base color.
Okay.
So the base emotions
in the middle.
And I would look at today I'm going to learn about being peaceful and content.
Okay.
Okay, and then what's after content? It's
you know what? This is mirrored on me too. I can't even read it.
Let me see.
You'll have to read it. Yeah.
It is relaxed. So, anyways, I would go through my day and I would start using that word. And then what would happen is, like, outside of my awareness, I was starting to, as the skill developed, I could see how I could feel how people felt, but without using the words that we typically use. And it just like dawned on me. Then I read this book called "The Globalization of Addiction" by Bruce Alexander, and it was like, holy shit! Like, emotional intelligence is the enemy of capitalism.
Yeah. Yes.
And so we learned so much about LaSalle discovering the Mississippi and the War of 1812 in school, but no, at not one time did I ever have a spelling wheel in any of my textbooks.
No, sir. Nope. We've talked about this a few times in the show, right? Where it's ridiculous, right?
It is.
With the benefit of that knowledge, anyway, it sure is.
My belief is it's by design. If I have, because if I have a high emotional lexicon, what comes with that is a plethora of intrinsic resource, including self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect, which makes me the worst consumer around.
Yeah.
If I don't feel like I need something extrinsic to make myself feel complete, then I am a bad consumer.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked at that, and then I was like, holy shit! Like, I was looking into the whole disease model, and I'm not going to get into that, but it makes sense to me that addiction has become a maladaptive behavior result of low emotional intelligence, easily overwhelmed, and needing to cope with being overwhelmed because I don't know what I'm feeling. I can't express it. Okay, so when I think about like my life today, the difference being having a level of emotional intelligence that is always, under construction. I'm always trying to get better at that because, I don't like anybody. I get overwhelmed. I react. Hopefully I can be accountable about that, but I managed to build prison walls because of my lack of emotional intelligence. And that's usually why I create my own oppression, because I don't know how I'm feeling, and it comes out as ego or anger or something manufactured to protect myself from being hurt. Yeah. And I don't even know what it is. So there's a guy named Eugene Gendlin who does this thing called Focus. It's a 6-step. Yeah, I talked about that before. And it's a way to get in touch with your body, and your body actually holds a lot of wisdom around how you feel.
Okay.
And so when you try these words on and you say the word that your body's experiencing, it's called a felt sense. Everything shifts. You can feel it. It's no guess. It's just a knowing.
Yeah.
It's like, that's exactly how I feel. It's not like, I might feel like that. No. It's you either feel it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so I guess, coming into that, it helps certainly being a counselor, and I can understand how people are feeling based on the words they choose. Language dictates lens. I can tell how you're seeing the world based on the words you choose to use to describe whatever. And usually it is outside of your own awareness, how you feel. I was
just going to say, right? Yeah. How often do you surprise somebody with that knowledge, right? Yeah.
Just about every session.
No kidding, eh?
Oh, yeah. Like, when I reframe that through an emotional lexicon, they're like, oh my God, like, that's exactly it. It's exactly how I feel.
So being a counselor just isn't being somebody good to talk to. There's actually some meat and on those bones too.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of hours of training and trying shit out.
Yep.
So I mean, we in order to like understand the importance of this, we have to understand the importance of human evolution.
Yeah.
And how we got here is so far, like where we are in capitalist North America is so far away from where we should be as human beings, that it's created this void. Okay. And within that void is where where society has put this this need to have make a lot of money, have something on your business card. Your T4 needs to say a certain thing. You need to drive a certain thing. You need to look a certain way. You need to eat certain food. You know what I mean? Like all these rules that have come about, when really it's just like, how do I feel about that? Like, what a question.
Yeah.
And how often do we stop and think about how I experience something, instead of like more often than not, if I'm low in my intrinsic resource of like self-worth, then I'm more worried about what you think I think about it than I am what I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just another oppressive state.
Of course it is.
Really, I mean, and we've only been at this since really 1995.
Okay, that's crazy, eh?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, right.
It's not a lot of time.
And we're really not at it yet either, because they're still not showing your kids in school a feeling wheel, are they? I don't know. I don't have kids in school, but I'm assuming I don't.
I know my kids have one on the fridge.
Of course, your kids do, right?
And we use it. Yeah. Okay, so the idea is we want
actually. You know what? I'm going to interrupt you there. Dan over at Hard Knocks Talks.
Yeah.
We were it come down to the end of the interview, and you know, if there's one thing you could tell or one thing you could, you know, and I said I wish I would have understood the importance of an emotional lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like really understood it. I started to get it, but it wasn't until you and I started working together that I really understood it. And Donna was saying that she was going to draw a feeling wheel up on their whiteboard for them. That was kind of how the interview ended. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I have clients that are like, they live by the feeling wheel now. You know, like every time that they have a discussion, they bring the feeling wheel out. What are you feeling? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, get the dog to pick something, and you know, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so not having emotional intelligence makes us reactive.
And now for a quick PSA brought to you by Yacha Treatment Centers in Phuket, Thailand. They are a clinic run by clinicians, not a business run by businessmen. And they know that where addiction is the smoke, trauma is the fire. Learn more at yatracenters.com. That's YATRACENTRE.com. And now.
Hi everybody, this is Carl with today's public service announcement about naloxone, or as it's more commonly known, Narcan, a medication that can help save the life of somebody experiencing an opioid overdose. Did you know that in 2021 opioids were responsible for over 7,000 deaths in Canada and 106,000 deaths in the United States? These numbers are staggering, but there is hope. Narcan is a medication that can reverse the effects of an opioid overdose and help save a life. Narcan is available for free at participating pharmacies and harm reduction centers across Canada, and is also available without a prescription at most pharmacies in the United States. Now, I know most of you won't be around people using opioids, but you never know when it will be around you, and you could save the life of someone who is loved and who loves.
Yes.
When we're reactive, we're recreating our history, which means we don't have access to the growth of possibility of tomorrow.
Okay.
It also means we're going to be having all these behaviors that are old and stale, and outside of our awareness, we're going to be executing these behaviors without any choice. And when we don't have choice, we have oppression. Mm-hmm. Opposite of freedom is oppression, right? So I'm not choosing. If I'm not choosing my reality, then I'm living in someone else's, which makes me a hostage of that reality.
Yes.
And that is, I mean, eventually it's too much, and we need to cope. And like, you know, people with substance use disorder, at least it's up front in their face, and they know what the issue is, and they know they know that there's resources to do that. Now that doesn't speak to you know, the families, which you know I talk a lot about, but the families, I don't believe there's enough resources for how families navigate this space, and I think that's a really important thing to start looking at.
Sure is not. Yeah.
But so then we talk about the other side of that.
I'll interrupt you again there. Sorry, Ryan.
Okay.
Just the other day, I said to somebody, 90% of the resources that go into addiction, like to recovery, go into 10% of the people it affects.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you think about the families, right, who get but basically no resources, right? Nothing quantifiable anyway, right? So the one person that's affecting 10 gets all these, and I'm not saying we should have less resources for people in addiction that are suffering. I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm saying that 90% of the resources that go to that suffering go to the one person. Nobody's, like, the other 10 people that affects, the people that love him, they got nothing. Right?
Yeah.
So,
no one to talk to, nowhere to go. I mean, like the amount of phone calls that I talk to with family members is probably like 80% of the phone calls.
I have no doubt about that whatsoever. None.
And it's always the same questions of how do I deal with this, and is this wrong, and is that wrong, and I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I feel alone.
This is kind of, well, it's not off topic. It's bang on topic what we're talking about in the moment, just not to the whole emotional lexicon thing. But something that got me fired up, I can tell you. We have a guest that's going to be on the show soon. Destiny. She's going to be bringing on her 17-year-old son. So that'll be a first for the show, right? And it's something that I've been looking for since we started doing this family thing, right? A parent-child combination, but there's a lot of things that have to make that, like, for that to work, there's a lot of qualifiers, right?
Yep.
There can't be resentment, because that's not what the show's about, and there's enough resentment when it comes to addiction and all the things, so I don't want that. Kid has to be smart enough. He's got to be okay with doing it. He can't be in shame. He can't, like, all these things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to help anybody, right? You have to find, like, this healthy balance. It's a perfect storm, and I think I found it. So I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah, me too.
However, this woman, they have been. Is that your phone again?
Huh?
That's right too. You can't hear it when that happens, eh? Yeah. I can hear it. Yeah, whatever. We got background music for a second. Oh yeah, loud, clear as day. All the twang. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
Jason Isbell.
Anyway,
I can't even reach it. Do you want me to go turn it off?
no, it'll shut off on its own, right?
Okay.
Her husband, has been in it for a long time. They've been apart for a very long time, and he's kind of in and out of the life. He's done some really mean things, but nothing horrible, like not violently anyway. And she decides that, like, he's come to Calgary where she is, kind of followed her here from 8 hours away, and she decided to let him come stay while he tried to get sober. She has to keep this a secret from her friends and family, who have threatened to never speak to her again if she does.
Wow.
Can you fucking...
Yeah.
Sorry. Can you imagine? They are threatening to punish the person for loving too much. And for, she didn't grow up with a dad. She was, she's very aware of that and wants to make every opportunity for her kids to have their dad. If you can imagine saying those words to somebody, and I had an argument with somebody online about this and said, none of those people are doing that for this person, for this mom. They're doing it for themselves.
Absolutely. 100%.
That is 100% about them not wanting to hear about it anymore, and they're not friends at all, and they could fuck right off anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
Right? And that's what it is. They're not thinking about the well-being of anyone other than themselves.
That's what it's masked as, but no, it's not, right? Yeah. And I think how many people go through that? How many people suffer this alone? All those phone calls you get, right? Not even a small portion of a fraction, right? Like, of how many people are out there right now dealing with this shit alone because there's people like that telling them that they can't, they can't talk to them about it or whatever. 100% it is, and it's wrong, and it's just messed up.
Yeah,
and I challenge anybody to argue a point for that. That you can make a point about that whole starving them out thing, like the person in addiction. At least I understand where that comes from. I can see the logic, even if I don't agree with it. There's just no frickin' reason in the world to punish the spouse or partner or child or parent of somebody that's in addiction. There's just 100%, not.
100%. There's not.
Right?
And it's not about them.
No. So
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to having that conversation and bringing that mentality to light and maybe changing a few hearts and minds along the way. Right?
I hope so, yeah.
I hope so, man. I hope so. So. Yeah,
I just wanted to touch on. Do you mind if I switch gears back to?
No. Let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing here.
I just like we read that definition by Salovey and Meyer, or Mayer. But I think to just look at what the abilities of it are, I think are important, and I think that you can break it down into 4 practicable abilities.
Yep.
Which are perceiving emotions, using emotions, understanding emotions, and managing emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, and what that means is active listening, empathy, and when we practice those things, it really reflects our ability to become more intelligent beings. Because without emotional intelligence, even if you're the smartest cognitive intelligent person in the world, you're still at 50% of intelligence. So we are vastly incomplete, and you can guarantee that there's burnout somewhere within that organic human system. So we reflect the ability to join intelligence, empathy, and use emotions to enhance thought and our understanding of personal dynamics. All right.
Yep. I'm here with you. Sorry, my mic
Okay.
was muted for a quick second there. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, so basically, this is the answer to evolving ourselves into a realm of potential that we didn't even know existed by creating relationships that are rich with authenticity and empathy and understanding.
Right.
And really, and it's also like when we have emotional intelligence, I know when fear exists. When I know when ego is showing up because I will feel disconnection.
Yep.
Emotions are connectable. If it's not connectable, it's not an emotion. That's why I don't believe anger is an emotion because it's not connectable. Like
Connectable. Define that. Define like a.
To feel connectable. Wow, how do I put words to that? To feel
like about a specific emotion, right?
Well,
like anger's not connectable.
No.
How do you mean that? Right.
Okay, so let's just say like go to the feeling wheel and I'm feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
And that usually has to do with expectation. So what do? I take this frustration, I project it into anger and get mad at somebody.
Okay.
That's keeping them away from my vulnerability.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But if I talk about joy and this beautiful experience of like being with my daughter,
right?
yes, it's very connectable. And so, same with like depression. That's not a feeling. Depression's a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And people say I feel depressed, and to me, it always irks me because I'm like,
but you can't irk them for not having an emotional lexicon that they haven't learned, right? So
yes, but it does within me. It goes to show where we're at in the social tapestry.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like, because people we're not being taught this. Because to be depressed, if someone with clinical depression has somebody come along, it's like saying I'm addicted to, like this chocolate's so addictive. You know what I mean? That pisses me off.
Does it though? Like, does it get you like?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Remember Lisa ended
with the coffee,
a coffee shop campaign, right? And I think about that sometimes, because you hear it all the time. It's such a, this stuff's addictive, this whatever, right? And once or twice I've been like, somebody should tell them that like that's pretty off color.
It is,
right? But then I think I don't want to be a part of that woke culture. So I, what I mean, like, I'm not that I don't want to be a part of that far, extreme woke culture, I should say, right?
And I'm also at a place in my life where I'm not like, don't say that, but but to me, it's like, man, there's people that are really going through it. That addiction has just devastated everything in their life, and you're comparing it to your need for expensive shoes. Like,
it's going to hurt your feelings, not theirs.
Yeah,
that's the thing too, right? You do this in a defense of somebody else, not because it's actually upsetting you about you, or you know what I mean. Like, so then is it? I don't know, right? It's a funny. Those are funny waters to navigate. I thought I'd pull that out of you for a second, right? But
like so. I mean, I think we'll probably delve into those aspects in the next segment: the perceiving, using, understanding, and managing emotions. But I will say, like, I did my thesis for grad school on how mental health professionals are affected by working with mental health clients and substance use disorder clients.
Okay.
And what came of that in our research, which I did not expect, is that those who have any training or any exposure to emotional intelligence and the lexicon have a much better way of handling high stress situations. They are much less likely to burn out. They make much better lives or decisions in their personal lives. They drink less. They use less narcotics. They have less maladaptive behaviors that would hurt people or themselves. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, holy shit! Like, that's not just people in mental health professionals. It's everybody.
Yeah.
And so
it is. Yeah.
The more emotionally responsive I am to critical issues, the better I will be responsive to the critical aspects of my life. So it extends, right? It's a way of being. It's not just like learning how to throw a curveball.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yep.
And so
I'm multitasking here. I'm getting something else ready for our next scene or for later in the episode. So I'm still listening to you. If it looks like I'm looking at something else, it's just so
and like to be able to perceive emotion, to integrate emotion, facilitates thoughts with emotional understanding, to regulate emotion, is all. If you have all of those little elements together, the outcome, the byproduct of that, is promoting a personal growth that extends far beyond anything that we could even understand without emotional intelligence. It's like, it's like discovering a new world, you know?
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah, so, and then, like emotional regulation is such a big part of everyday life. Like, I see it all the time. People that don't know how to regulate their emotions are always finding themselves tripping over hurdles. And it seems like they just, get frustrated with never getting anywhere in life when the answer isn't that job, it isn't that car, it isn't that girlfriend, it isn't, making weight. It's about feeling content and complete as human beings.
So hard, eh?
It is.
It shouldn't be. And I think if a person takes the time to listen to what you're saying and to listen to what we're trying to do here on the show, it gets easier. But it's hard. You know what I mean? And it's it just is, to be content with you and
even we are, and like those of us that practice this, it's still fleeting. Like the other thing about emotions is that here's one thing you can count on, and this is something that's really good as far as like even relapse prevention goes. Is like understanding that the only thing we can count on in this world is that everything is going to change. Emotions don't last. And that's why I talk about, like, happiness should never be a goal. We should appreciate it while it's here, knowing that it's not going to be here long and something else is going to come along. That's why I talk about the state of peace, because peace is a trait. It's a way of being. It's something we can embody. Mm-hmm. Contentment, state of peace. It's a state. And we can hold, I can be peaceful and also sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. But I can't be peaceful and angry.
No.
No,
cannot be. No, you can't
be. No, because I shouldn't say, you know what, I can be peaceful through be peaceful through any emotion that's connectable, which is all emotions.
There you go, right?
And even in sadness, I'm connectable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Time to get on the mailbag?
Sure, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I think so, right? Yeah.
Go on for days about this, but I'll...
Yeah, that's why it's a 3-part series, right? Got to keep them wanting for more, right?
Yeah.
So, I had one in the queue. One has just come in from Destiny, who I was talking about, and so I'd said, "Hey, listen, I need a question, because behind the curtain, guys, I lost some of the questions that were here, and I'm not sure where the hell they are. And thank ADHD for that. We'll find them. We'll get to them. I'm sorry to listeners who aren't going to hear them.
Where's my keys?
Right." No, you want me going down that rabbit hole right now? We got enough rabbit holes today.
Yeah.
So I'd said to her, just before we started recording, hey, I need you to come up with something, and I know you've got something because you've got this entire crazy dynamic going on there, right? So I'm sure you can come up with a question for me, right? I'm going to read this exactly as it's typed, and it's not a question, but it is a question. So here it is, right? It's so hard to have a question because I feel like it's impossible to talk to this person that knows he's so shitty already. So how do you talk to someone who knows, but it feels like they only say it to kind of shut you up? Or how do you communicate with somebody that's like that? It's so hard. Basically, this person's in very, very early recovery, still paranoid, like super paranoid, right? Like questioning the recovery part of it, paranoid now at this point, right? Because and you know what? I'm going to ask you that real quick before you answer this question, because I don't know what the answer is. For a meth addict, how long does a psychosis go on from when they stop using? Typically,
depends on their length of use. To be honest with you,
right? I guess it would, eh? It would.
But
yeah.
It can be weeks.
Yeah, so and that's where I was saying, like, I don't know because it never affected me that way. I got nothing for you, right? So. But it's been a week, and it's still they bug my phone, right? Like I'm not crazy, right? And it's been a week, so it's like she's starting to question the validity of the recovery now. But and I didn't have a good answer for that, right?
It can last weeks.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Okay,
and
that's good to know.
And I think I'm going to say, the more we can focus on seeking to understand rather than be understood, the easier it will be to access empathy and humanize the other person.
Right. I love that. I forget it until I hear it every single time. And
because it's so paramount.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing I would say is like some internal dialogue needs to happen with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the questions I would ask myself is like, what is my agenda here?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I want to know is like, is this about me feeling better about this? What are my expectations that will invariably lead to disappointment and frustration? You know, and then I look at like, okay, so like I have training in dealing with characteristics of schizophrenia, which has really helped me in understanding the process of recovery and especially early on.
Yeah.
And so how do we, the goal is to come up alongside. Arm in arm, we walk together.
Yeah.
I'm not in front, you're not in front, I'm not behind, you're not behind. And so if it's like, yeah, my phone's bugged, to say, no, it's not, you're being ridiculous. What have I done? I put myself on the outside.
Yeah.
Instead of, that must be a really difficult place to be. It must be hard to think your phone is bugged all the time.
Okay, but you just said to think. You didn't validate that, right? That for that person. If I'm that person, if I hear that, I'm like, you're just placating me, right? If I hear you say because you think, right? Oh.
Yeah, because I'm not going to confirm that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to deny it. I want to join them in the reality.
Okay.
And so it's not like tell me tell me about how that feels. How are you experiencing that? Open the lines of emotional
conversation
communication.
Already.
Right? Well, and it's like
what a different conversation that is to have. Yeah.
And because when we get into the emotional connection part, that's where it's gonna like they're gonna stop feeling alone. The biggest part of addiction is isolation. That is, isolation is suffering. Right?
Boot on the neck, right? On the neck. Yeah.
How do we come up alongside and we ask questions? We be interested. And I love that saying by Brené Brown. Interesting people are interested people.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so, and it's like, I don't see the spiders, but that doesn't mean they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the people in the bushes, but I'll be here for you. If anything happens, you're not going to be alone.
Yeah. Right.
And I would just keep reiterating that I'm here. You're not alone. Whatever you need to experience, I'm here to listen to it. It's not for me to tell you it's right or wrong, because there is no right or wrong. It's what your experience is, which makes it your reality. And I'm not going to tell you that your reality is wrong. It's different than mine.
True story, right? True story.
Yeah, and then trust the process. Like, know that there is no formula for this. The only thing I can say is stay connected as best you can. Be with as best as you can. Empathy is to feel with. That is the definition.
Yeah.
So feel.
In a million years, I could not. I would never have given that advice, and I get asked a lot, Ryan.
And send them
and I regret that. Well, it just means I still got lots and lots to learn, right? I'm pretty careful about the advice I give, right? But typically it's along the lines of you do whatever you feel is right for you, and I got you back. Right? Like I said, I don't know what I'm very careful about giving advice, but I never would have thought to say, hey, how about just feel it with them, or let them have it until they don't have it anymore, right?
And
again,
print it in your brain. Seek to understand rather than be understood.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, there's going to be some sort of material going up here in the studio with that on it, right? Most certainly, right? Yeah.
Throw it on a t-shirt.
On an RBK t-shirt?
Sure.
On that note, folks, check out a2apodcast.com. Hit the merchandise button. We got all sorts of crazy stuff. We got some Ashes Awesome stuff. We got some RBK stuff, tanks, hoodies, t-shirts, you name it. It's there. If there's something that you would like to see, let me know. It's a very short process to design. Our prices are great, and shipping is included on all items that you see in the store. So there you go. Yeah.
Okay, can I thank you for that? And yeah, check those out. I got one. I got one in the mail. Those are really cool.
Yeah. Actually, mine might be here today. Fuck, right? I got a hoodie and a bowling shirt coming. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm excited.
Now,
Yeah.
to carry on with that,
Yeah.
I said something about checking your agenda, also your expectations. I think as supporters, we need to also to trust the process and know that everyone's process is a little bit different than the other. And so, like,
When you say check the agenda, Ryan, what are examples of agenda? Because I hear that and I automatically give it a negative connotation, and I don't think that's fair. Right? Like somebody who thinks is trying to do the right thing, but what would be an example of an agenda that they should be aware of so that they can?
You need to stop using now.
Okay, explain that. Okay.
Well, my life would be better if you didn't use anymore. That's an agenda.
Yeah.
Not like, like, let's work on cutting down use. Let's work on, I don't know, doing things that make you feel better. Maybe getting a gym pass again. Maybe reading a book again. Like, you know what I mean? Without saying you have to stop using drugs or I'm never going to talk to you again. Now, I don't ever believe that's the way. I do believe that we do have capacity.
Yeah.
I think that we need to, like, I use the term learning to love from afar. Sometimes that's kind of the last house on the block. But sometimes I got to get some space to get away so that I can restore. And, you go do your thing and I'm here, call me, but I'm going to take a little space right now. Like, that's the learning to love from afar. I still want everything great for you. And, and I still love you.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing is, like, sometimes it's, like water skiing, if you don't let go of the rope, you'll drown. So sometimes we got to learn to know that when we've done our best, that has to be enough and we can let go.
Yeah.
And the universe there's a whole universe here that will, one way or another, walk with that person. It doesn't always have to be us.
Yeah. Right.
And sometimes we're too close that we need. Like, people come and see me because I'm objectively, I'm a professional, but I'm objective in it. I'm not too close.
Yeah.
And I can say the things that need to be said.
Yeah. Yep.
Without
True
fearing
story.
rejection or losing somebody or sending them off the deep end.
You said a couple things to me that were like, okay, right?
Yeah.
Not offensive at all, but just like, oh shit, man, certainly, right?
Listen, I honestly believe that when your heart is in the right place, other people feel that. Inside awareness or out.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, right? Occasionally somebody doesn't have the EQ to see that you are being, a genuine, authentic person, but for the most part, I 100% agree with that statement. Yeah.
And conversely, like, as soon as they sense judgment, you're out. As soon as they sense that, disappointment or shame, you're done. It's over. You're no longer an agent of peace.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
So I don't know if that's. I don't know if that answers that. In early recovery.
It really does, though. It really does. I don't think it's the answer anybody's expecting for or looking for, but I think it's the right answer. I think it's something to work towards. Right?
Yeah.
Taking that mentality on for one argument or one conversation or exchange, whatever, not so hard. But changing your mindset to do that, that's a process, right? That's going to take some time. And again, every time I hear that, I'm in love with it, and then I forget about it until I hear it again. Right?
Well,
and that's it's just the reality, right? It's a fundamental shift in how you handle the world.
And that's what I mean. Like, this process is about shifting your being, the way we are in the world. And it's a process. As long as I'm breathing, I'm in process. I'm in a state of growth or decompensation.
Yeah.
But either way, and it's not even like, even my decompensation is part of the growth process.
Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah.
All right. We have another one who's actually kind of a bit of a star in the Acid Awesome world right now. Tammy again from last week in Brockville, Ontario. She asked a great question last week. She had two. I said she had to save the one for the following week, and so we've got that again. To the listeners that might not have heard about Tammy, she in episodes 92 and 92 and a half, she came on and told this crazy story about being the parent of an adult child who is in it. She is now a mom again to her grandchildren, which happens quite a bit. And she's started submitting weekly blog posts to the Acid Awesome page.
Yeah.
And they are powerful. They are powerful. The one from 2 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
It was overdose on Wednesday, so Thursday. An emotional day for me anyway, right? And when she said that to me, it invoked emotions in me. I was just, wow, right? Just wow. That how she does it blows my mind. So when Tammy has a question for the mailbag, we got to be damn sure we get to it because, you know, her writing is connecting with a ton of people. And I got to do another quick shout out. Benjamin Lerner. Content creators don't share other content creator stuff. Not without an exchange. It's a thing. Last night, Benjamin Lerner, who was on the show, of course, you know, he's a great guy, huge social media following, out of nowhere, does a write-up about Tammy's blog and shares it. Out of nowhere. Extremely rare event. Like Haley's Comet rare event to happen amongst content creators. What a guy. What a guy. You know, it's just so thank you for that, Ben. You know, not that he's listening, but you know. Well,
thanks, Ben.
You know. Yeah. Anyway, Tammy's question. I have received mixed messages about talking openly with the children in regards to mom's addiction. I personally feel that honesty and trust are crucial. My 10-year-old grandson likely knows more than we realize. You know he does. And I would prefer him to hear the truth from us, and I don't ever want him to feel that we hid anything from him. Obviously, it needs to be age appropriate, but I'd like your thoughts on talking to the children about a parent's struggles. And I want to add to this in a conversation I had with her about it yesterday on the phone. She was telling me about the question she wanted to ask you, and I wasn't about to start weighing on that one. What she said, and she didn't say it in this question, like in her typed out version, was, if home is to be a safe place, if I am to be a safe place, I have to be an honest place too. And so I'm going to add that on to the question as a, here's what she is doing, what do you think kind of way, right? I thought that was some profound shit when she said that to me. I was like, yep, I agreed with that. But your thoughts?
I have some thoughts.
By this point, at 10 years old, I don't know if you've ever actually listened to that episode. He's seen everything, right? So, you know.
So, I mean, I think one of the hardest things to grapple with, you know, me being a parent as well, is that it is events, it's the world, it's hardship that really ends a childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like mine was over real early.
Yeah.
And so...
Right.
That's where I think, for me, it's about having matching language, but having the same message, in that treating them as not as children. I'm not going to say as an adult, but speaking to them in a way that is very open, honest about what's happening.
Age appropriate.
So, yeah.
Right?
So like I can tell you just recently, my 5-year-old asked me about a very close family member of mine that is still in it and will be. And I explained it in a way, really, I kind of took a medical model in that it's almost like a sickness that she...
I love this. I'll tell you when you're done, but you're going to love this. Go ahead. Continue. Yeah.
That this person cannot go through a day without taking something to change the way they feel, because the way they feel is so awful and they don't know any other way. And there's a lot of fear in that doing it in another way isn't going to work, and the underlying fear will come to fruition. And so instead of making a change, it's easier to keep doing what they're doing while it reinforces the sickness.
Yeah.
And so that's how I, and I'm not super medical model guy or anything. But it was a way that I could relay that to my 5-year-old so she could understand.
Age appropriate way, right?
Yeah.
The guest from the Weekend Ramble, you haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
I haven't, no.
Todd Rannenbaum has a children's book about mental health called Sometimes Daddy Cries.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire premise of the book is relating it back to something medical. So just like when you have a stomach ache, dad has to go, like some very relatable comparisons
Right. Yeah.
for
And
a
honestly,
young child to understand, right? Yeah.
And so, and that kind of comes from the model used in Switzerland and how they've shifted their social view on addiction to go from a moral issue to more of a medical issue. And like the kids in Portugal and in Switzerland, they're not out to use drugs because they see it as addiction as the same as influenza, heart disease, leukemia. Like you don't want to go and get that. Whereas me growing up, it was like that's how I rebelled against the system.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I also got I got an identity that people thought I was cool around it, and like that doesn't happen there. And so when it comes to relative to children,
so a 10-year-old that is seen for 10 years.
I mean, and so like for a 10-year-old, and if I know that if they were like me, then I'd want to know the truth. Like this is so there is a history. There's a history there that has created a turbulence within the individual, and the socially accepted solution that's presented through media is typically alcohol. And that can lead to a number of other things once we learn that if I drink this, it changes the way I feel. Then we go on in life and we snort that and it changes the way I feel the same way. And I smoke that and it changes the way I feel the same way. And I have all these options, but it starts with the social acceptable Budweiser commercials and, Captain Morgan and all that shit. And like, and what are we taught? Like we're taught every emotion we have to drink over. You go to a funeral, you drink. You go to a wedding, you drink. You go to graduation, you drink. You get a fucking promotion, you're drinking. Like you
get fired, you go drinking. You go everything. Right?
Everything in our media points us to change the way we feel. Nothing says be with what you're feeling, let it process, let it do its job, get out of its way, and you'll come out the other side a better person.
Yeah.
Again, it's not marketable. It's not going to get ratings. It's not going to
Yeah.
That's why, like that show, The Intervention, it gets great ratings.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not the more effective model.
No, it's not. No.
Although I do have changed my tune a little bit on those.
It's one more tool in the box.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
and honestly, like I like what Devin says. Like if you're at the point of intervention, you've tried everything else. Like
right. Yeah, that's not the first call anybody's making. That's for sure. Right? Rich Johnson there at Rose Creek Recovery Services has really changed my thoughts on that entire process as well, right? Yeah. Him and Devin are very similar in that they truly care, right? They truly
and
care.
That's it. And like so going back to both questions, that care needs to be in the foundation, and that the element of care needs to be in every word you choose.
Absolutely.
Especially with a 10-year-old. And like I
think,
also
go ahead.
Well, I'd also attend to it's okay to feel the way you're feeling. You're not alone in the way you're feeling. I'm a safe space
that
for you.
Stigma in the ass right now, right?
Well, if you have questions, I'm here. I will not judge you. I will not tell you you're wrong. And
you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be sad.
Exactly,
you're allowed to, right?
But no matter what you do, you will be supported.
Let's break out a freedom wheel so we can talk about that. Right? Boom.
Exactly.
Then you order one from Ashes to Awesome for $19.95. I'm just kidding. We don't sell feeling ones.
Or you can just go online and download your own.
But it wouldn't have my logo on it. But you could totally just go online and steal anyway.
Yeah, and so again, all of this requires love, all of it. And all the questions we get, the answer is love-based. It's about seeking to understand. It's about creating a safe space for people to have input, to be able to express themselves, and to ask more questions. And if your child asks you more questions, that's a win.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It really is, isn't it? Right.
But you can't Santa Claus them.
No.
You can't Tooth Fairy them.
I know. When I was like 24 and found out about Santa Claus, I was like, not okay. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I had to explain last night to like two different people that humor is how I cope. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. It takes intelligence to be humorous.
Yeah. Well, or real stupidity sometimes. Let me tell you, right? Yeah.
They're not trying to be funny though.
Yeah, no, not me trying to be funny, right? Yeah, right. Inappropriate times. It's like a superpower sometimes. right? You know? Yeah.
As long,
So,
I always say, if there's as long as one person laughs, it's a joke, and I'm always laughing at my own joke. So,
right, buddy, I have said that for 30 years. Right? Like it is funny because I think it's funny. I
Yeah.
don't really care if you do or not, right?
Exactly.
Like, I wasn't doing it for your benefit. I was doing it so I would laugh. So whatever, right? Jeez, but pull up your pants. You're in the middle of a goddamn stampede, right? Anyway.
yeah.
Just kidding. That brings us to my favorite part of the show. That's the Daily Gratitudes.
Today's Daily Gratitudes are brought to you by Revolution Recovery, helping men recover and become their best selves through support and treatment. They've been there and they understand.
What you got for us today, Ryan? Yeah.
Well, I start every week. My beautiful family, especially more so now that I got to spend every single minute with them for the last 10 days.
No kidding. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And it's just
But you're going to start answering the phone again now, right? Yeah. Okay. Good.
yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. We're going to do that. That's a thing. Okay.
I
Great.
kind
Thank
of
you.
like the break, but yeah.
I don't care about anybody else. You just answer my calls for now, and we're good. Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely am grateful for a break in the monotony. I'm grateful for hammocks and sunshine and time by myself, time to and for most of my life I was afraid to be in my own head, and now it's a place that I can go and be safe, and that is such a massive shift for me in my world. And so I'm grateful for introspection. I'm grateful for I'm super grateful for the opportunity to do this stuff and to live the life I've lived and to have people listen to the crazy shit that comes out of my face.
Right.
Lots of gratitude there.
Myself, I am, again, I said it earlier in the episode, and I'll say it again. I'm grateful for our friendship, buddy. I am. This last week, it's not been like, oh my God, I miss him so much, but it's like, there's a hole there, right? And it's like, you kind of get used to it. You get used to the free billable hours, and it's a good thing. So, another place I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful. And we don't have their feeling wheel up like I wanted to, but in the next episode, I'll make sure that I do at least show it. But it doesn't mean I can't really acknowledge Moose Jaw, the Welcome Out Detox Center out in Moose Jaw. I've been talking to Chad Top for some time now about, himself. And then today I said, any one of your staff wants to come on the show too. I mean, they're all great. For me, and I made a Facebook post about this earlier with a picture of that feeling. Well, if you come to the page and check it out, it's probably the only physical object on Earth that I could say that starts the beginning of a very long road of healing, right? It's that feeling wheel that I helped make there, right? I got a long way to go, but fuck, I got some miles behind me too, eh? And I really do, and I'm so much further ahead than I was when I started making the show, even, a few short months ago, 8 months ago now or whatever, 7 months ago. And I'm grateful for the whole damn process. I really am. It's been great. And mostly, I am thankful to each and every one of you, the listeners, the watchers, the supporters. It's crazy, man. It really is. We are now on every social media platform. I added Snapchat to the list while you were gone. We are everywhere. Right? We are. Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter. You don't have to, but you can. You probably should. Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's all of them. I think that's all. I might be missing one. If you see the logo, drop a like, comment, message, do whatever. Right? Every time you do any one of these things, you're getting me a little bit closer to living my best life. And my best life is to make a humble living, spreading the message. The message is this. If you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start a very lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call it a detox, go to a meeting, do whatever the hell it is you need to do to get that journey started. It's just so much better than the alternative. Fucking Scott. Anyway, if you're the loved one of somebody who's suffering an addiction right now, just taking the time, listen to our episode. If you could just take 1 more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they're loved. Use the words.
You are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might.
My body's getting cold. My life is running low. Feel me falling. find you another day, and I'm not scared to go. It will be okay, I'll find you another way, and I'm not scared to go, because when I die, I'll be happier in another life. I'll be a ladybug soaring through the sky. Please search for me, please find me. So please don't cry when I land on your arms, spread my wings and fly. So please don't cry. Spread my wings and fly. So please don't cry.